Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Afe if you're new here. And as promised, I will be talking about the law school admissions process and we'll be starting off with the LSAT. So yes, the LSAT is one of the scariest things you will ever come across in life. I'm lying. I'm kidding. Am I? But to be honest, the LSAT is considered one of the major parts when it comes to the law school admissions process, and I know how many people are scared and terrified of the LSAT. Even the thought of taking it could be terrifying, and I've been in your position before, and so I am doing this video to basically give you some things that you should consider when you start to think about taking the LSAT, and just to put the LSAT studies into context for you, because I know that having an idea of what to expect can also be very helpful when it comes to studying for the LSAT, because it is definitely a major part of the law school admissions application. And yeah, it's something that is constantly always talked about. Yeah, so let's jump right in. All right, so what is the LSAT? The LSAT is the law school admissions test. It has been offered for so many years as the major exam to be taking when deciding to apply to law school. But in the past year or so, the law school admissions process has changed just a little bit. So the GRE is currently accepted by a couple schools, but by and large, the LSAT is still considered very highly when it comes to the law school admissions process. There are a couple schools now that do accept the GRE, but not as many for one to be like they won't take the LSAT. I've heard of a couple people in the past few application cycles that have taken the GRE, and the results kind of vary, so your chances of getting in are a little bit limited because there isn't so much data out there to kind of see or compare your chances against other applicants. But as I said, by and large, the LSAT is still the main test. So what is the LSAT? So the LSAT is the law school admissions test. It is a test that takes about 4 hours, and there are 3 subject areas to be covered. So you have the logical reasoning, the logic games, and your reading comprehension. And on the LSAT as well, you have another section, a 4th section. The 4th section will be a section that could either be one of the 3, so either logic games, logical reasoning, or reading comprehension. You're not aware of this when you sit for the exam, and then you also have another logical reasoning. So in total, you have 2 logic reasoning questions, 2 logic reasoning sections, so logic games, reading comprehension, and another section that could be any of the 3, and that particular section is unscored and you have no clue of what to expect when you decide to sit for the exam. But I think personally that the LSAT does reward patience and practice. This test is a very, very foreign test. It could be one of the most alien things that you've ever done. Like, I started studying for the test and I'm like, I don't know what this means, especially when it comes to logic games, because there are so many parts of it that one isn't familiar with. The topics might just be above your head, and it is something that most people are just not familiar with. Nobody's thinking of the LSAT in regular day-to-day life unless you're done taking the LSAT and then you start nitpicking everything you come across. But honestly, when you start off, you're as confused as everybody else who was taking the LSAT. But I would give you a sense of what the LSAT is today. So starting in July, the LSAT is transitioning to the digital format, and that entails that the LSAT will be taken on a tablet. And this is different from the paper pencil type situation once the July test is over. So this current July, the people taking the test in July, a part of them will be taking it on paper, some will be taking it on tablet, and once that is done, it's going to be fully digital. And this could definitely bring some concern to students, which is understandable. I mean, this is a test that has been done on paper for the longest. To find out that it's going to be digital could be very, very anxiety inducing, to say the least. But not to worry, there are several resources out there that are necessary to prepare for this test, because you can't exactly take a test without practice. I mean, you need the practice. So I will link down a couple resources that I have found that will be helpful in taking the test or preparing for the test when it comes to the digital format. Also, one thing to note that is very important, I think, to emphasize is that the test is largely the same, still exactly the same kind of content, just a little bit different format. And one other thing is that the writing portion of the test, where you have an essay and you have to be persuasive, is not going to be required right after your couple 3 hours of taking the test. So the test takers have the option of taking the writing portion after they've taken the test. So on another day, I think you have a year span to take that writing portion. So you don't necessarily have to take it right after you take the test, which is actually great, because you are stressed after taking a time test and have to write out an essay. But also, I just must say that I feel that it's going to, I think, increase the need for admissions committees to pay more attention to the writing portion of the test, because now you have, although the same 35 minutes, but it's in an environment that isn't as intense as you would in a typical testing condition, but you're still going to be timed and, all of that stuff. So yeah, not to worry, it's still largely the same kind of test. But now into the main stuff about how to really think about taking the LSAT or preparing for the LSAT, which I think is key, is to note that this journey is your journey. First of all, don't compare yourself to anybody else out there, because it might take someone else 3 months to prepare, which is, man, you're lucky. But then again, there are people like me who it took over a year, like literally over a year, to actually prepare for the test. I took it several times. Like, there's no shame in taking the test several times. To be honest with you, I feel like that was one of the things that I was concerned about. Like, oh my God, how would people look at me? Like, what will people think? Oh, I'm very stupid. No, you're not. The test is a test that tests so many different skills that you might be accustomed to, and it's okay to be like, I have failed and I am willing to learn and pick back up. So, it's okay to retake. Just know that this is your journey. It is a marathon, not a sprint. So yeah, it could take you years, it could take you months, and that's fine. Just embrace the journey and just trust the process, because it will get exhausting. Number two, it will get exhausting, and it is important to be aware of the fact that you should take breaks. Burnout is a real thing, and I think a lot of us are typical type A people and so you just feel like you could push through a bit, and honestly, no, it would not be the best idea, because you're putting your mental health at risk, and all of that just messes up everything, because it just, yeah, no, you just need your mind to be in tip-top shape, and the LSAT could have a way of breaking you down to the point where you start comparing yourself and questioning if this is really for you. So when you start feeling burnt out, definitely take a break. It does wonders for your brain. After all, like, your brain needs some time to actually digest the information you've been looking at. So yeah, a break does help. Like, I tried to break up my study. I did study full time, and in another video I will explain in detail my full LSAT journey, and I will be sharing that, because I feel like it would describe and show like the ups and downs. Like, it's never a straight road. It's fine. life happens. So that's just something to take note of. And also, I think a big thing that I want to mention is the fact that this test is also expensive. So when you're preparing for this, so when you're taking this test, make sure that you know you're prepared. You know you're in a good place to take the test. You're ready because right now the LSAT is $200. Somebody explain how, make it make sense, because I took this test in January of 2019 and it was about $190, but here we are. How though? Yeah, no, it's crazy. And for people of low income backgrounds, this is just not helpful at all, because how does one actually start saving that money to actually take the test? And that does not even include the other resources and materials that you will need to prepare. Like, come on, like, you will need past questions and all of that. I mean, there are ways to kind of cut some corners here and there, but it is still a largely expensive test to take. So try and take it when you're ready. And a little tip I'm just going to throw out there is that you could apply for fee waivers. Absolutely do it, because you're just accounting for the LSAT at this point. Applications could run thousands of dollars, if not more, if you're depending on how many schools you apply to, first of all, and how you go through the process. Also, apply for fee waivers when it comes to that, and I'll talk about applying for fee waivers in detail as well. But absolutely apply for the LSAT fee waiver, because then you get to you get your LSAT test covered. I think they pay for CAS for you, which is the Credential Assembly Service. So they compile your transcript and your letters of recommendations and other documents or forms that you fill out for the application and send them to the school. So it is highly important that you also take a look at that. And I think they also give you a book. They give you a couple free prep test materials, and I think also get 2 free LSAT takes. So I mean, there's nothing to lose here. You get to save money, and I've heard of several people who get denied, but absolutely appeal that and get the money, because at the end of the day, this is a very expensive journey you're about to begin. So the earlier you start saving money, the better for you. Another thing to note is practice, practice, practice. This test is a test that rewards practice. Get your hands on as many practice tests as possible. I know that you could get them off Amazon, you could get them off eBay, you could get on sites like Reddit, law school admissions, or Reddit LSAT threads, or Reddit LSAT subreddits, and seek out from people who have taken the LSAT before materials that you could get from them, because I know that the money, it does add up. Like, I definitely spent over $1,000, not even way more than $1,000, to be honest with you, when it comes to LSAT prep. Because first of all, like, as I've mentioned before, I was the first person doing this, and it was a very isolating journey. Like, I didn't know anyone taking the LSAT at the same time as I did, and so when it came to asking for the best materials to use, I didn't exactly know where to go. So the internet and people that I knew who had taken the test before were my only guiding light. So yeah, I will absolutely say check online, but I just want to make this clear. And I mean, some people might take it the wrong way, some people might feel some type of way, but honestly, there's some materials that I would say stay away from. And no hard feelings if this is a material you use. If it's working for you, good for you. If not, please, I'm begging you, change it, because why keep trying the same thing over and over again if it's not working for you? So in my next video, I will detail the resources that I will personally recommend, but I will be sharing the ones that I say highly stay away from. So for me personally, you could take it with a grain of salt, but Kaplan and Barron, I think they're books that you should absolutely stay away from, because the test is a test that you need the real material to practice with. So if you haven't had access, so those two materials, at least that I'm aware of, they don't test you or they don't provide you with actual LSAT questions, or the questions that they use are not LSAT questions, which does not help you in the long run, because you can only succeed when you've had practice with stuff that you're going to be facing when it comes to the real exam. So absolutely do not suggest those materials to look at. So stay tuned for the ones that I recommend, highly recommend. I cannot speak enough about these materials because I feel like they're a game changer, and many others who have used them before can attest to how good they are. So my phone just died, so if anything seems off, that's why. But let's get right back to where we were. So speaking of the LSAT, as I mentioned, practice. You want to make sure you're practicing with the right material, and as I said, I will give you the kinds of materials that I suggest prepping with and what I think might be the best approach. Once again, I am no expert. This is my experience that I'm sharing, and experience and knowledge from other people that I'm also sharing as well. So if there's anything that you think is not how you would like to do it, that's totally fine. I think that right before you start doing any serious studying, it is important that you take a diagnostic test. So basically to gauge where you're at currently, and I think it's going to be a good indicator of your strengths and weaknesses, which is also very important when trying to prepare, because you could know exactly where you need to focus some time on and what you think you have a good grasp of. So taking a diagnostics test will be absolutely important. I think it is very crucial to do so, and I think it's just a beautiful thing to see where you were before and where you're now and the things you're capable of doing. And one thing to know is that your diagnostic score does not define you, and it does not limit the potential for where you could potentially score at the end of the day. Because I will share my diagnostic score. I got a 141, and that is not the best score ever. Like, if you know the LSAT scoring range, you know that that is not a score that one is proud of, or would possibly be getting into some of the top law schools if that is your thing to be attending. So for me, it was a learning curve, and it just required dedication. At the end of the day, I'm not going to be sharing my final score because I don't want you guys to have the wrong idea that just because you have a particular score, you won't be able to get into a school or whatever. Because I know that when you think in the grand scheme of things, if you were just taking my application just by numbers alone, I might not have gotten accepted into certain schools. Again, the LSAT is just one piece of the entire picture, and just remember, it's not just only about the LSAT. There are so many details to be considered, and I think that many people don't remember this or pay attention to it enough as should be, because in as much as law schools really love the numbers, so you need your LSAT score and your GPA, like your personal statement needs to be bomb. It needs to be one of the best writing you've ever done in your life. So, and that could be a lot of pressure. I mean, it is a lot of pressure because you don't know where to start, you don't know what to condense your whole life into. But there are so many components to your test, to this law school admissions process, that you shouldn't just really rely on just the LSAT to push you through. I mean, the LSAT, if you have a bum LSAT, you could definitely be going places, but it is not the end of the world if you don't. And that doesn't mean that you should have an LSAT that you think, comparing it to the schools you're applying to, won't be good enough. At the end of the day, I think something that you need to keep in mind is to know why you're doing this, because there will be days where you're studying and nothing is making sense. There are days where you literally want to throw yourself out the window. Um, but that is not to say that your journey to go into law school has to end there because you just feel inadequate, or because you're not improving as quickly as you would like to. You just need to remember why you're doing this, and that it is something that might come easily to you. It might not, and that is fine. There are several people who have done it before you that found it challenging. If I am here telling you that you can do it, I mean you absolutely can do it, because I somehow got into law school. I don't know how, but yeah. Yeah, you can absolutely do it, because it really just requires dedication. Because there will be days where you question yourself whether this is supposed to be a thing. Like, is law school really a thing for you? And if you're qualified enough. But the truth is that you are more than capable. If this is what you want, you won't let anything get in your way, and you absolutely have it in you. You just need to focus and remember your why. Like, why do you want to do this? Whose life do you want to impact with this degree? What do you want to get out of your law school education? And I think that would greatly put things into perspective for you, because at the end of the day, just taking the LSAT isn't just to take the LSAT. You're taking the LSAT to get into law school, and you're going to law school to do something with your law degree. And so whatever that might be, I think that is something you have to have at the back of your mind when you're preparing for this exam. And I just want to say that you just, like, this, as I keep saying, it is a hard process, and I'm being honest with you, it will be long and hard if you're just starting out. If you're in it, you really know what I'm talking about. And I mean, I don't miss the LSAT study days for anything, because in as much as, like, when I reflect back on it, it was beautiful to see where I'm at and like how far I've grown and all of that. But in the thick of it, it was rough, honey. It was rough. Like, I remember, like, waking up in the middle of the night, literally solving logic games in the air. Like, the LSAT made me crazy. Yeah, the LSAT did make me crazy, but I somehow survived. But at the end of the day, I want to say that you should know why you're doing this. You should know exactly why you're doing this, because you don't want to be doing it for anybody else, because you will hate yourself. You will hate life. You shouldn't listen to anybody telling you that you can't do it because you have a poor diagnostic score. I've heard people saying that one can only increase 10 points from their diagnostic score, and that is a total lie. You can absolutely increase more than 10 points from your diagnostic score. You just need to know how to apply the right strategies. It is a skills-based test. You just need to practice, and, use the material that will help. Know yourself and know how you learn, and that could all work in your favor. At the end of the day, know your why, and don't listen to people talk. If you're someone that you know that law school and becoming a lawyer is something you want to do, I think this is something that you just need to push down, focus, and just persevere. My saying throughout this process was trust the process. Faith it till you make it, because it does require a lot of strength and just being patient, because there will be rough days. And that is it for this video. I know I have thrown a lot of information at you guys. It is sort of all over the place, but I hope you bear with me. I'm just starting this little YouTube thing for the first time, okay? So, I mean, it's going to be all over the place for the time being. I don't know, I'll get my life together and probably be a little more cohesive. But that is it for now. The next video, I will be talking about the materials that I will recommend, and a little more about, like, properly delving into actual LSAT prep, so like the different sections and all of that. And I'll give you some resources to, like, predictors. I hate those things because they could have you having anxiety for no reason and making you think you're not capable, because, like, even just off your numbers, but it doesn't consider the other parts of your application. And that is it for now. I will catch you guys in my next video. See you guys.